Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to the Brainstorm with the Brain Lady today. This is a topic that I love talking about, and I was telling Elizabeth that I have all these. She came in, and I was probably looking down at my desk because I've got all of these research papers on my desk to share some really fascinating information for you when it comes to our business benefit, or if you are listening to this replay later or watching this on YouTube, the benefit as a corporate leader and what it can do for corporations and their wellness programs, and why it is so important to have exercise as part of your activities in your life and in your business or your corporation, because it is critical for brain health. For a very long time, the benefits of the physical benefits, your cardiovascular system, your heart, your entire endocrine system, all of that. It's just like documentation and study after study proving the positive benefits to your physical health of exercising regularly and having that critical combination of cardiovascular and muscle building, right? And to have just that best physical health that you can. That is such a key component. But as the brain lady, obviously, my focus is going to be a little bit different on this particular call. And I'm just going to share some of this information for the next 20 minutes or so, and then we can just kind of open it up to a Q&A, or you sharing what's worked well for you, or just an open discussion. That's the way that I like to have the brainstorms with the brain lady lined up, is kind of this interactive chat that we do. So to start with, I do want to turn the focus on the brain benefit, just the full brain benefit. There have been a ton of studies that have been done over the last couple decades, really primarily since the 1980s, 1990s. Those were the two decades that launched this huge investigation into the brain, right? And a lot of it had to do with technology, because technology had gotten us to the point where we could look at the brain in a different way. Prior to that was the pretty much just an MRI, right? You just were able to take slices of the brain, or you could read just the surface, the top half inch or so of the brain, half inch to 3/4 inch, that somewhere in that area, by doing the caps, right? Measuring the electrical activity. But that's such a small portion of the brain. And the MRIs weren't able to show anything in action, right? They were only able to show the brain in a stagnant state, just slicing pieces of the brain in a single picture. So it really went from, then you got these new machines, the SPECT scans, the PET scans, positron emission tomography scans. These now, in the last decade or so, actually probably 15, I have to look it up, the functional MRI scans or the fMRIs. And what all of these machines now were able to do is look deeper into the brain, actually watch the electrical impulse and the energy expenditure below that surface, deeper into the brain, so the subregions of the brain, not necessarily just the cerebrum, as well as measure sizes, measure growth, it gives us a picture of neuroplasticity. It's just amazing what these new scanning machines do. So based on that, now we're able to expand a lot of these activities that we used to just look at for physical health. And it's kind of a no-brainer, pardon the pun, that something that's good for us physically is going to also be good for our brain. And that is definitely the case with physical activity and movement. And I'm going to include studies on exercise, but keep in mind that it can be just simply moving the body, walking, even freestyle dancing, where you're just literally moving the body, and how things like that have an incredible positive impact on certain regions of the brain that actually grow and get stronger, create new neural connections, as well as the emotional base of the brain and how well it reduces depression, anxiety, lowers that, and then how it improves our productivity. So those are, pardon me, I'm getting over a cold, so I apologize for the coughing. So I'm going to read you one of the studies that jumped out at me when I first read it that was huge because I love dancing. I love dancing, right? Was a 21-year study. So that's something else that has benefited over this longevity time, or this length of time, is that they've been able to do longevity studies, right? Because they couldn't do a study on how exercise affected you, your health and your aging, how well you aged from in terms of brain from the 1970s to the 1990s, because they couldn't start scanning in the 1970s, right? But now, since these studies have been able to go on for a couple of decades, they've been able to close out some of these studies. And there was a 21-year study that they did with senior citizens that were 75 years and older at the Albert Einstein College in New York City, in connection with the National Institute of Aging. And what they found was that the connection between physical exercise and cognitive recreational activities, right? One was reading, one was crossword puzzles, and the best one was dancing. So the physical activity of the dancing. So what they found in this study was individuals who regularly engaged in doing things like reading. So read every day, right? Reading had a 35% reduction in brain aging, reduction in the risk of getting Alzheimer's or dementia. Doing crossword puzzles. So these are both reading and crossword puzzles, right? Those are both cognitive exercises. 47% reduction. Crossword puzzles. Isn't that interesting? Because it really the way it works the brain. But guess what dancing got? Just I'm gonna throw up my chat here. Guess, throw a number in what you think the percentage was of dancing. Reduction in cognitive decline. Any guesses? 70. Oh, got to go up a little bit further. 63% is what Elizabeth said. 76%. 76% from dancing. So that physical movement, the exercise, because dancing is often connected to a cardiovascular, right? If you're dancing, especially any type of upbeat dancing, it was 76% reduction in cognitive decline. So this was one of the early studies that said, wait a minute, let's look closer at physical movement and how that relates to cognitive abilities, how that relates to brain health. And let's look at what it actually does to the brain. And what they found was individuals who exercised on a regular basis actually have cardiovascular, by the way. Muscle building is great for your physical health. It's not necessarily overly close or in a large way connected to cognitive abilities, except that it makes you stronger and therefore you have more endurance and you can exercise more, right? You can do more. But the main focus was on this cardiovascular and what does it do for the brain. And what they found was the areas of the brain that are connected to memory retention, right? Memory recall, actually, which is the hippocampus area, the hippocampal area, actually grows larger. It grows new neurons and new neural connections. Is that fascinating? So individuals, pardon me, I should try to hit mute when I do that. I apologize. Individuals who exercise on a regular basis, 4 to 5 times a week, get that cardiovascular workout for a minimum of 20 minutes. Ultimately, the brain, our experts say 40 minutes is the best for cognitive, for your brain. They have larger hippocampuses. Therefore, they have better memory recall and better memory retention. So they learn faster and they can bring that information back up much quicker. Right. So think about this when it comes to your day-to-day activities, when it comes to the things that you need to be doing throughout the day. How much do you want to be able to think and remember things and go, oh my goodness, wait, where are my glasses? Right. Go do a few jumping jacks and you'll figure it out. It literally expands that region of the brain. And because it expands that region of the brain, it gives you greater cognitive function. And they found other things as well. Reasoning is better. Being able to problem solve is better. Now, their theory behind this is just simply the fact that you are increasing the oxygen level to the brain. When you do any kind of physical activity, if you're raising that heart rate up, you are increasing circulation in the body as a whole, and your brain is part of the body. So the more you increase the oxygen or the flow, the circulation in your brain, the more oxygen flow you get. Not only the more oxygen flow, but the more nutrition is actually moving up to the brain through that blood flow. So by doing these exercises, it invigorates the brain. It helps the brain connect. It gets it that valuable glucose that it needs to burn, the micronutrition that it needs for optimal health, and the oxygen to function at its peak. Now they've taken this one step further, and they've done some fascinating studies connected to, of course, depression. They've done studies where they've had individuals that have just been managed on their, and I've got them all listed here in front of me. One of them was a study done at the at the National Institute. Oh, the Environmental Research and Public Health is one that I'm quoting from. Another one is the National Library of Medicine produced another study, and there's a bunch more here in front of me. I can get you the references if you want later, but I don't want to go into all of those details. But they did research on how it affects depression, the mental health, right? So we're talking now, we know it's affecting the physical health of the brain, making the brain healthier, growing new neurons, really, really activating that neuroplasticity in the brain. And then it also reduces depression significantly, lowers anxiety significantly. One of the studies that I just love, because I love hiking. I can't do the aggressive hiking nearly as much as I once was when I was younger, but I still get out there and I love going for hikes on beautiful trails in nature. And they found that in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that spending time in nature decreases obsessive negative thoughts and therefore reduces depression, reduces anxiety. So now if you can combine that cardiovascular, right, by walking briskly in nature on a nature path, imagine what you're doing for your mental health and for your physical health, or for your brain health, your brain growth, your brain connectivity. Powerful information, right? Now, let's take it one step further and connect it over to how is it affecting us in our productivity, right? So we know it affects us physically. It reduces the risk of onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. We get that. Grows neurons in the brain. We get that. But it also is going to increase your productivity. Now, there's two reasons why they feel that this happens. And they have a couple of really great studies on it where they actually were watching. I think one study, they were looking at there are 435 individuals in a corporate setting, And the other study, they were looking at over 3,500 individuals in a corporate setting. And what they found was that they were able to do more. They had these little exercises where they worked with reading and spelling and all of these different, different things. But they were able to find that the increase in productivity across the board in every single participant, right? That's impressive. That is really, really impressive when you start to think about it. So the activity, it's when you get up and you move and you do this physical activity, especially 20 to 40 minutes of cardiovascular, as often throughout the week as you possibly can, you are actually improving your ability to focus, which means you're improving your ability to be productive in work. So how many of you have had those moments where you've been sitting at the computer and your desk is covered, and which I have tips on that too, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't focus, I can't get things done, what is wrong with me? Guess what you need to do? Get away from the desk, right? Go for a walk. Go get your heart rate up, because that studies are showing proof positive that this works. This works. So here's where here's the main point that I really want to wrap it back around to. Look at what you are doing in your day-to-day activities. If you are in a company, in a corporate situation, if you are a leader in a company, in a corporate, if you own a business where you have employees, ask yourself, what does my wellness program look like? If you're an entrepreneur, what is your wellness program looking like? Not just from the standpoint of, okay, well, I do it, I go to the gym every day or I work out every day, but throughout the day, what is my wellness program, right? If you are a leader, you are a corporate, do you have incentives for your workers to get up and move? Do you have incentives for them to join a gym or to do regular workouts? Are you encouraging them? Okay, let's all be honest here. How many of you do not take breaks on a regular basis? Do not take either your scheduled breaks, or if you are an entrepreneur, you stay at your desk for a whole lot longer than what you should? Raise of hands, right? Right. We all do it. I do it. And I'm the brain lady. Right. And I will get there. And sometimes it's my watch that'll tell me, oh, it's time to move. Sometimes I look at the clock and it's like, oh my goodness, I have been sitting for 2 stinking hours. That is so unhealthy for the brain. And that actually reduces your productivity. So how can you start thinking about, how can I incorporate more breaks where I can physically get up and move? Not just get up and go to the bathroom because I've been really good about drinking my water. No, actually incorporate something that's going to raise that heart rate just a little bit, that's going to get that oxygen flow to your brain really going. What can you do? Are you at home? Do you have home workout equipment? I have an elliptical in my workout room. So oftentimes I will just take 5 minutes. Don't have to work up a big sweat, but I want to increase the oxygen flow, right? So I just go in there and I'll just jump on that for 5 minutes and I'll just move for 5 minutes. Get my heart rate up, right? That's going to benefit my productivity and my cognitive ability. And therefore, I'm just going to get more done. Wait, technically, improving my productivity and getting more things done is kind of the same thing, right? But you get my point. Can you go for a walk around your house? Do you live on a street? Can you take 5 minutes and just go for a brisk walk outside? Are you blessed to live in an area where you have green spaces around you? Can you walk out? I know a friend of mine, she lives in Texas of all places. I never Never would have. My view of Texas over the last few years has just like expanded, because I always thought it was this like dry, flat place and there's nothing green there. But because I've been doing business there a fair amount, and I have a friend that lives there. She lives in an apartment building, and behind her apartment building, like her apartment building is attached to a green belt. So she can literally just walk out her door, walk to the back of her apartment building, and walk on this green path where it's just this beautiful little forested area. Like, how great is that? 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and that will improve your productivity. Movement. If you can't get, and the green space, right? It's going to help with just your mental health. If you can't do that, if those aren't options for you, what about dancing? Dancing, 76%, 76% reduction in cognitive decline. How amazing is that? Set up your favorite playlist. What are your favorite dance songs? Right? If you are in corporate, I'm serious. When I go in and I do wellness, I do brain friendly. I have this program where I go into corporations and I will literally help them create a brain friendly atmosphere so that their employees' mental health and physical health is improved and their productivity increases. Conflict is down. Camaraderie, culture is up. Anyways, that's another topic. But I should do that on the Brain Lady. Anyway, squirrel. The point is, can you get up and dance? Can you get up and just simply dance like no one's watching? Even if you're in an office, who cares? Right? Dance down the aisleways. Do a little bit of something. It's just going to be so healthy for your brain. And you don't have to have a green space, a green belt, a path, an exercise machine. You don't have to have any of that. You can just put on your favorite dance tunes, whatever your genre is, put on your favorite dance tunes and dance for 4 or 5 minutes. That's going to raise your cardiovascular. That's going to get oxygen flow to your brain. That's going to increase your cognitive function. And I have no idea what I just said. Improve your cognitive function. I get so excited that sometimes my brain and my tongue don't exactly connect. The point is movement. Movement is wonderful. Movement is healthy. Movement will improve not just your physical health, but so many parts of your brain and your mental health, that it's going to improve your business, because you're going to get more done. You're going to be able to focus better, and your company culture if you are a leader.